Welcome everyone to the Coaching Corner. This is the first Coaching Corner of the new year. So happy new year to everybody. Welcome. As you're coming in, let me know where you are. Where are you tuning in from? Let me know. Okay, I see people coming in. Definitely let me know where you are tuning in from. And again, happy new year to everyone. I hope everyone had a safe and happy new year. I hope you had a joyous and restful winter break. To all my educators out there, everyone working in the schools, I pray that you just enjoyed your break and it was a well-deserved break. Those of you who are new to the Coaching Corner, I am Jamila, aka the IEP Coach. I am the founder and lead consultant of the IEP Coach LLC. We are an education consulting company that specializes in providing special education-centered support to teachers so they can thrive in their roles. That is the biggest support that we do. We support our teachers, especially our special education teachers. We also support parents with understanding the special education process and IEP process. And we support organizations and nonprofits by training their staff so that way they can better support students attending their programming that may have learning, sensory, or behavior needs. All right. So that's just a little bit about us. And we go live every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we talk about all things special education. So this space here, we talk about all things special education. It is a love, and a passion of ours. And we enjoy talking about special education and teaching our audience about various topics in special education. Okay. So tonight, our topic, we're going to be focusing on special education systems. This is extremely important, and it's extremely vital that every school not only has their school system set up, just like you know how you have your operational systems when students are absent, what you're going to do. When it comes to report cards, which you do, like you have your systems for things, how teachers get paid, the process, teachers clocking in or scanning or inputting something. Like every school has its operation systems. And sometimes administrators think, oh, that same system, oh, it applies to special education. It does not. Special education is its own entity because it has its own set of rules and laws. Okay, so every school special ed department needs to have efficient systems. Okay, so you have to have, like, you may not think of it, but you need to have a system on, okay, if a student comes into our school and they're from out of the district or out of the network, what do we do? How are we going to write our IEPs? How do we lead our IEP meetings? How are we going to be doing our progress monitoring? All these things require a system. And the reason you need to have a streamlined system, meaning everyone follow the same system, so that way you don't have all these different individuals doing their own thing and you're wondering why you can't get consistent data and you're wondering why some reports are looking good and some are not. It's because everyone is not following the same system. So it is very important that you have efficient special education systems set up in your school. So tonight we're going to talk about 3 specific systems you definitely, I want to say 4, that you definitely need to have set up in your school and have it run seamlessly in your school. So first off, special education department, special education teachers, you're writing IEPs. It needs to be clear, one, how those IEPs will be written. What I mean is, what is going to be the format? How should we, now, every state, the IEP outline does not change. It's the same in every state. Now, how you go about wording, how much information you're going to put in, that does vary from state to state. So, section 2 of the IEP, I'm just using this as an example, is the present levels of academic performance for the student. That needs to be the most thorough piece. That is the most thorough piece of the IEP. That is like the meat. Okay? That needs to be a well-written, thorough section 2. So, because that section is so important, there needs to be a system and outline of how it's going to be worded, how much information you're going to add in that section, and how you should word that section. So there needs to be there needs to be an outline template. How do we word our section 2? How are we going to word the goals, our SMART goals, in section 5 of the IEP, and in section 6 of the IEP, where we put the specially designed instruction? How do we word our accommodations and modifications? Because in that section, you need to be mindful where that student is going next year, where they are currently, but where are they going next year, to make sure that you are not adding accommodations and modifications that will not push that student to reach their fullest potential, and so that you are not adding something that is not grade appropriate. Okay, so that's an example. You need to have a system on how you're writing your IEPs. You need to have a system on how you will do your IEP meetings. So when you're doing your IEP meetings, there are certain things that need to be done. So you need to have your system for that. What rooms are available for IEP meetings? If they're booked, what do you do if those rooms are booked? What's your next step of action? What do you need to have with you when you go to the IEP meeting? All of these things are extremely important. After the IEP meeting, how do you go about submitting the original documents to the network or to the district office? You need to have a process for that, and everybody has to follow it. For example, my time working in the Philadelphia School District and Springford School District, we had processes on how we submitted our information. So after the IEP meeting was over and I had documents signed, I literally took over the teacher's lounge. Like, I had everything spread out because I didn't want to mix up anything. All of everything that needed to be copied, I had it in this pile. I copied it. Once I copied everything, I made 2 separate piles. One pile for the copies, one pile was the original. Because the copies are going home to the parent, all of the originals are going to the district office. So I had to make sure I did not mix it up, and also the order of those original documents had to be in a certain order. So I wanted to make sure that was in order. Okay. So it's not just, once you're done your meeting, you're done. There needs to be a process. How will we submit the original documents, and how do I go about submitting the copies to the parent? Okay, that was 2. 3, your third system, progress monitoring. How will you go about collecting the progress on the students' goals? What is the process? What is the school's process for how you're going to collect data? And when I say progress monitoring, as a special education teacher, you have to track your students' progress with their IEP goals. Now, the person in charge of the special education department, the principal or the Sped director, there needs to be a streamlined system, so that way everybody is following the same system on how to collect data. So you need to decide, what probes are you going to use for reading comprehension goals, for math goals, for behavior goals? What's going to be used? What rubric is going to be used for behavior goals? And when you are progress monitoring behavior is different than progress monitoring academic goals, because behavior is very visual. You have to see it. So how will you collect data on a child's behavior? You need to have rubrics. It's going to be rubrics and it's going to be observation. What type of rubrics are you going to use? If the student is in elementary versus if the student is in secondary, middle, or high school. Are you going to have it on paper? Or are you going to have it electronic? You have to think about those things, and you have to be consistent with collecting that data. So you have to figure out what rubrics are going to be used for collecting behavior data. What rubrics will be used to collect data for math goals, writing goals, reading goals? What is going to be used? And it has to be clear with the whole department. These are the probes that we're going to use for reading goals. These are the probes we're going to use for math goals. This is what we're going to do if we are progress monitoring writing. This is what we're going to use when we are progress monitoring behavior. These are the things. It has to be very clear, because if you don't, you won't have consistent data, and you won't have collected consistent data, and then you have this teacher over here doing this one thing, and you have another teacher over there doing something else. You need to have it streamlined, so everyone needs to be following the same system. And it is very important, because this helps to keep things organized and clear and running efficiently. And then with progress monitoring, you need to have a process for how will you do your progress reports? How do they need to look? How do they need to be written? How often will they be written? Okay? You have to have systems for all of those things. And then one more system. What are you going to do if a student is coming from out of state, coming into your school, whether it's a charter school or a public school district? What's the process for that? What are the steps you're going to take? It's a process to it. You need to obtain their IEP. You need to look to see what programming you have to make sure your school has it. To also look at the related services. You got to look to see, oh, do we have the services that this school needs? If we don't, we need to make some phone calls. We need to contact the parent. We need to contact our department head, who will then probably contact the district head for Sped. So there are processes in special education that need to be streamlined and need to be clear and efficient in every school. If you don't have these set up in your school, your special education department is going to be in shambles. And I'm just going to put it like that because it will, because you need to have organized systems to keep things flowing, to keep things going orderly. Because if you don't, you're going to have a lot of Sped teachers like, well, how do you want me to do this? How do you want me to do that? How do we do this? And especially you have new Sped teachers, you have veteran Sped teachers, and then it's like you don't always have time to sit with each other to discuss these things. You're going to be left to yourself trying to figure it out. You don't want that. You want things organized. You want organized systems, and they need to be set up before the start of school. But it's not too late. If your systems aren't good, it's not too late. You can reach out to us at the IEP Coach, and we can definitely get you in order. That is one of our zones of genius. Organization, that is one of our things right there, okay? We can definitely get you in order, and you can reach out to us, book a call with us, and get us in your school to help you with your systems, help you with some professional development for your teachers as well. And I'm going to drop our link in the chat so that way you can contact us. Okay. All right. So the few examples of systems that I said that needs to be set up in your school efficiently are your IEPs. How are you going to go about writing your IEPs? How are you going to lead your IEP meetings and submit the paperwork that needs to be the original signed paperwork at the end? How are you going to progress monitor your students' IEP goals? Because you need to know when there's going to be progress monitored, how it's going to be progress monitored, what materials are going to be used for that, and then how are you going to write the reports? And then also you want to know just your systems. If you get a student, that student's coming from out of district, out of network, what are your steps that you're going to take? Okay, you need to have these systems set up in your school. They need to be streamlined, meaning everybody follows the same system. Everybody follows the same system. And then you need to have a hub for your Sped department. Here are all the pros we're going to use. Here are the steps to take if someone comes into our district who is out of district or out of network. Here are the steps for how to progress monitor. This is what we use to progress monitor. Here is how we write. This is how we're going to write our IEPs. And here is an example of what that looks like. Here is a resource of what that looks like. You need to have everything in a central location that your whole department has access to. So that way, if they do run into an issue, they know, oh, let me go here first so I can get assistance, so I can get help. Okay? So that was our just some information about the importance of having your system, your special education system set up at your school so that way your department can run seamlessly and organized. All right. Also, I want to let you guys know that the Sped Educators Rise group coaching program, it is open for enrollment. This group coaching program is specifically catered to special education teachers. So listen, you know that feeling you get when you have to write these IEPs, that anxiety that you feel, that overwhelming feeling that you get. You might get anxiety. You might get that knot of anxiety in your stomach. You might get pain in your back from so much stress that you get because you're so nervous, because you're like, I don't want to make no mistakes. You have those feelings of isolation, working alone, or just being overlooked by your administration all the time, being forgotten about, you know, wanting training to grow in your field and to learn more, but you're like, where is it? Who's coming to train us? This program is for you. Okay. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. It starts January 31st. I am dropping the link in the chat. Oops. Hold on. Here we go. It starts January the 31st. Pass it on to teachers in your network that you know will benefit from this. Pass it on. Pass it on. Did I share? I'm sure I did. Yes, I did. How about tips for parents preparing for an IEP meeting? Okay. Tips for preparing. Okay, so some quick tips. I can answer that for you. So some quick tips for preparing for parents who have to prepare for an IEP meeting. Prior to the IEP meeting, definitely you want to request a draft of that IEP. So that way you can look it over before you go to the IEP meeting. So that way you can make notes on it. And write your questions. Anything you have, you can just write it on that draft, and you can bring that draft with you to the IEP meeting, and you can just start with your questions. So you definitely want to get a draft of the IEP. You definitely want to let them know what your schedule is like, so that way you have a higher chance of getting a meeting scheduled when you are available and you actually can focus on that meeting. So let them know what your schedule is like. When you get that invitation, you can also write it on that invitation. This time works better for me, or you can, email your child's case manager to find a better time. So definitely share your schedule. Definitely request a draft of the IEP, and definitely get a binder so that way you can put all your, when you are at the IEP meeting, definitely ask your questions, and beforehand get a binder so that way you can put all your child's IEPs in that binder to help you keep track of your child's IEP. This helps you keep track if a school is recycling goals. You'll be able to see, okay, did they change this? Did they change that? You'll be able to see if they're recycling some of the same information. And at your IEP meeting, always get a physical copy of that new IEP once it gets finalized. No problem. I'm glad I was able to answer that for you. And if you guys run into any other questions, definitely DM us. We are very responsive on our social media platforms. And if you email us, we are very responsive as well. As always, if you are catching us on a replay, put #replay in the comments so that way we know you are catching us on a replay. Share out this live share it out with your networks, because this is valuable information. And as always, be safe and be kind to yourself. And we will see you next Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a good evening, everybody.